the mile king of the late Showa era. In this video, I will talk about a horse named Nippo Teio. He is the mile champion who carried the air after Nihon Pillow winner. In this video, I'll be explaining his life. Before we begin, let's start with some Japanese snacks. Nippo Teio was born in 1983. His father is Lifford, who is from the northern dancer lineage with Lifford as his sire. He's not a very well-known stallion. Nippo Teio's mother is named Chiyoda Masako. Her racing record was modest, with 1 win in 5 races. Thus, Nippo Teio's pedigree isn't particularly strong. However, tracing back this female lineage leads to the legendary breeding mare named Beautiful Dreamer. Beautiful Dreamer was a horse imported from England over 100 years ago, and although specific details are unknown, the lineage stemming from her has produced numerous successful horses up to the present day. Nippo Teio's debut race took place in October 1985, a 1600-meter turf race. On that day, the track became sloppy due to rain. He started in second position but quickly took the lead. As the race progressed, he gradually extended his lead. By the time he entered the final straight, he had about a 4-length lead over the competition. From there, he continued to widen his lead even further. When he crossed the finish line, he had a significant lead over the competition. In Japan, when there is a gap of more than 10 horse lengths, it's referred to as a large difference. While the exact number of horse lengths ahead is unknown, the time difference between him and the second-place horse was 2.2 seconds. Nippo Teio won his debut race by a landslide, but in the subsequent 1,800-meter race, he was overtaken by other horses from behind early in the final stretch and finished in 7th place. Afterwards, he participated in the Grade 3 Keisei Cup early in the year. With the competition being stronger in a Grade 3 race, contenders included Dyna Fairy and Dyna Cosmos. Nippo Teio raced from the 4th position in this race. As they entered the final stretch, Dyna Fairy, who had been leading, accelerated even further, extending her lead. Nippo Teio and Dyna Cosmos both desperately pursued her, but Dyna Fairy maintained a lead of 3.5 horse lengths to secure victory. Ultimately, Nippo Teio finished second in the race. Nippo Teio's next race was the Yayoi Show in March. During this era, the Yayoi Show was still a Grade 3 race. Dyna Cosmos was present here, but in addition, the 2-year-old champion, Daishin Hubuki, also participated. As the race started, Nippo Teio took the lead, followed by Daishin Hubuki and Dyna Cosmos. As they entered the final stretch, Nippo Teio had a lead of about 3 lengths. Behind him, Daishin Hubuki and Dyna Cosmos were chasing. Nippo Teio tried his best to maintain the lead, but ultimately he was overtaken by Daishin Hubuki and Dyna Cosmos, finishing in 3rd place. Even though he didn't win, Nippo Teio secured a top 3 finish in the Yayoi Show, earning him a priority entry to the Satsuki Show, start of the Triple Crown races, where he competed. On the day of the Satsuki Show, Nippo Teio was the 12th favorite out of 21 horses. He tracked the leaders from a mid-pack position on the outer course, but he lost momentum in the final straight and finished in 8th place. The winner was Dyna Cosmos. After being defeated in the Satsuki Show, Nippo Teio participated in the Grade 2 NHK Cup in order to secure a spot in the Derby. In this race, Nippo Teio was leading throughout the course. Even in the final stretch, he maintained the lead, but around the last 200 meters, he was overtaken by horses coming from behind. The result was 8th place. As a result of these consecutive losses, the team determined that Nippo Teio's aptitude is around the mile distance. In other words, they were giving up on the Derby. As his next race, they chose the 1,600-meter Grade 3 New Zealand Trophy. This race had a small field with only 7 horses competing. Nippoteio positioned himself in third place when the race started. Until the final corner, the order of the horses remained mostly unchanged, and in the final straight, Nippoteio surged ahead of the rest to take the lead. He took a commanding lead. Dinah Ferry, a strong filly, came from behind, but the gap between her and Nippoteio remained at 3 to 4 lengths, and this gap did not narrow. He maintained a lead of 3.5 lengths to achieve his first ever victory in a graded race. Next, he entered the Grade 3 Radio Tampa Show over 1,800 meters. In this race, he had a rematch with the Satsuki Show winner Dinah Cosmos. He positioned himself within the front-running group as usual, holding the 5th position from the front. Dinah Cosmos was slightly behind in the midfield, but around the third corner, he rapidly improved his position, and by the time they entered the final straight, he was leading the pack. Nippoteio tried to challenge Dinah Cosmos from the inside, but the gap widened even further. Indeed, the opponent was the Satsuki Show winner and was strong. Unable to match him, Nippoteio finished in second place. The next race for Nippoteio is the Hakodate Kinen, a 2,000-meter Grade 3 race. He was the second favorite, with the top favorite being Windsor Knot, a specialist in 2,000-meter races. However, Windsor Knot had a heavy handicap due to his track record and carried 60.5 kilograms. Nippoteio made a strong start and led the race from the front. He maintained his lead as he entered the final straight. Windsor Knot, still hindered by the heavy handicap, struggled to gain momentum. Nippoteio widened the gap with the chasing pack and secured a runaway victory in first place. Furthermore, he set a new track record time of 1 minute and 58.6 seconds. This victory undoubtedly elevated Nippoteio's reputation. Furthermore, he will be facing even stronger competition in the next race. The next race was the Mainichi Crown. The horses that participated here were primarily strong contenders aiming for the Tenno Show Autumn, which takes place in about 1 month. There were only a total of 8 entries, but notable horses like Miho Shinzen, Sakura Utakado, and Windsor Knot were among them. Just like in the previous race, Nippoteio led the race from the front. As they turned the final corner and entered the home stretch, Windsor Knot pulled up alongside Nippoteio, but Nippoteio accelerated from this point and left Windsor Knot behind. He extended his lead. However, Sakura Utakado was closing in from behind. Nippoteio was overtaken by Sakura Utakado with about 150 meters to go. Sakura Utakado maintained the lead and crossed the finish line in first place. Miho Shinzen was also making a late surge from the outside, but Nippoteio managed to hold on to second place. Nippoteio opted not to compete in the Tenno Show Autumn and instead participated in the Grade 2 Swan Stakes, which took place on the same day as the Tenno Show and covered a distance of 1,400 meters. It's likely that there was some concern about the 2,000-meter distance. While 1,400 meters might have been a bit shorter than ideal for Nippoteio, he adapted well to the race dynamics and maintained a smooth pursuit. He surged powerfully from third place to take the lead in the final stretch. And without any trouble from other horses, he maintained his lead and crossed the finish line in first place. It was a convincing victory. In the Mile Championship 3 weeks later, Nippoteio became the heavy favorite with odds of 1.3 to win. It was a chance for him to achieve his first Grade 1 victory. However, Nippoteio failed in the starting dash. As a result, he found himself in a position farther back in the race than usual. As they entered the final stretch, he was still in about the middle of the pack, but he made a determined push through the inside lane. However, Takara Steel, who had taken the lead by going on the outside, was ahead. Nippoteio was still in third or fourth place, but as the finish line drew near, he accelerated tenaciously and ultimately moved up to second place. Takara Steel was slowing down, so it appeared as though Nippoteio might overtake her, but he couldn't quite catch up and finished in second place. It was a close result. However, I believe the race results from the summer onwards in that year were promising enough to anticipate his performance in the following year. He concluded his races for that year and set his sights on the following year's Spring Yasuda Kinen. Nippoteio participated in the Grade 2 Spring Cup on April 26 as a lead-up to the Yasuda Kinen. Once the race started, he was positioned in the middle of the field, but by the time they entered the final straight, he was already among the leading group. Nippoteio had already become a champion-level horse. He lived up to that reputation, seizing the lead with a champion's performance and holding off Dynat Actress, who was chasing closely, crossing the finish line in first place. He made a strong start towards the main event, the Yasuda Kinen. On the day of the Yasuda Kinen race, Nippoteio became the overwhelming favorite. When the race started, Nippoteio led the following pack in the front group. Dynat Actress was slightly behind, and the second favorite, Suzu Parade, was even further back. Nippoteio entered the final straight while maintaining his lead. He accelerated, widening the gap with the pursuers. It seemed like he was on the verge of his first Grade 1 race victory, but Fresh Voice, coming from the outside, made a strong charge. The final straight of the Tokyo course is long. Fresh Voice unleashed the power he had conserved at the back and overtook Nippoteio just before the finish line. Nippoteio finished a close second. And Nippoteio also competed in the Takarazuka Kinen. The Takarazuka Kinen is a 2,200-meter race, and there seemed to be some concern about the slightly longer distance for him, as he became the second favorite in this race. Nippoteio followed from his usual position, running in second or third place. As they entered the final straight, he found himself neck and neck with the favorite, Nishino Raiden. And from the outside, Suzu Parade began to make a chase. The showdown in the final straight became a contest between these three horses. However, Suzu Parade surged ahead first. Nippoteio faced some difficulty and dropped to third place. Yet, in the end, he summoned his strength and managed to pass Nishino Raiden just before the finish line, securing a close second place. The results of this spring season, which included 2 consecutive second-place finishes in Grade 1 races, were generally top-notch. However, for Nippoteio, they were a bit unsatisfying. His first race of the autumn season was the Grade 2 Mainichi Crown. It was the ideal 1,800 meters for him, and he was the top contender here. He took the lead as usual, utilizing his speed, and comfortably entered the final straight. He smoothly accelerated, attempting to take the lead, but there were 2 horses coming from the outside. As a result, Dynat Actress on the far outside claimed first place, and Nippoteio finished in third. By the way, Nippoteio falling out of the top 2 was the first time since the NHK Cup, ending a streak of 9 races. Next, he participated in the Tenno Show Autumn. He had a good start and took the lead from the beginning. He maintained his lead and entered the final straight. In the final straight, Nippoteio steadily widened the gap between him and the pursuing horses. There were no horses closing in on him. When he crossed the finish line with a significant lead, the gap between him and the second-place horse was as much as 5 lengths. This is how he clinched his first ever Grade 1 title. Furthermore, despite the heavy track conditions, his time was an impressive 1 minute 59.7 seconds. Due to his incredibly strong performance, Nippoteio's jockey proposed to the trainer that they should take on the challenge of the 2,400-meter Japan Cup. The Japan Cup was held the week after the Mile Championship, but during that era, longer distance races were considered more prestigious than short distance races. However, the trainer insisted that Nippoteio's true aptitude was for the mile and didn't change their plan to compete in the Mile Championship. Before discussing the Mile Championship that we welcomed on November 22, let me briefly share the story of the Queen Elizabeth Cup that took place just a week prior. In this race, which was designated as the final race of the Triple Tiara series for 3-year-old fillies, Talented Girl emerged as the winner. And what makes this significant is that she is the sister of Nippoteio. It was just a simple fact, but I wanted to include it as a key point. Now, let's get back to the explanation of Nippoteio's Mile Championship. Nippoteio was strongly supported as the overwhelming favorite at 1.2 odds, mainly due to its previous dominating victory and the lack of notably strong competitors in the lineup. When the race started, he positioned himself as usual in third or fourth place. He gradually moved up and was already in second place near the third corner. And as he rounded the final corner, he drew level with the leading horse. As he entered the final stretch, the gap between him and the followers only widened. When he crossed the finish line, leaving his pursuers far behind with his overwhelming speed, there was a 5-length gap between him and the second place, St. Caesar. No one would have any complaints. Nippoteio has secured the position of champion in the mile and middle distance races. Nippoteio was selected as the best short distance horse of the year. The following year, it was only natural for him to set his sights on the Yasuda Kinen, a Grade 1 race for the Spring Mile, following his acquisition of the Mile Championship in the autumn season. And as a precursor to that, Nippoteio, having entered the Spring Cup, found himself once again facing off against Dynat Actress. The participating members were only 9, but strong sprinters such as Nippoteio, Dynat Actress, and Hocto Helios gathered. As usual, Nippoteio comfortably tracked behind and pulled alongside at the final stretch. Around the last 200 meters, Nippoteio took the lead, but right behind him was Dynat Actress. The two horses raced side by side until the finish line, but he was overtaken by Dynat Actress, finishing a close second. Despite the defeat, Nippoteio was the favorite in the Yasuda Kinen. In addition to the top contenders from the Spring Cup, the field included Fresh Voice, the previous year's Yasuda Kinen champion. With a total of 12 participants, the lineup was small but promising for an exciting race. After the start, Nippoteio took the lead in the race. Dynat Actress and Fresh Voice were tracking in the middle, while Hocto Helios was positioned towards the rear. Nippoteio maintained a lead of about 1 length throughout, steadily pulling away in the final stretch, widening the gap with the pursuers. His momentum was excellent, and he appeared to have ease until the end. Despite efforts from Dynat Actress and Hocto Helios to catch up, they couldn't corner him. The race time was 1 minute and 34.2 seconds. Nippoteio secured his third Grade 1 title by winning with a 1-length lead over the second-place Dynat Actress. Having completely dominated the mile division, Nippoteio set his sights on the Takarazuka Kinen, seeking redemption after finishing second the previous year. On the other hand, another champion horse had entered this race. It was Tamamo Cross, who had rapidly demonstrated his strength during the year, securing victory in the Tenno Show Spring with 6 consecutive wins. Suddenly he was born a champion in long-distance races. In other words, the Takarazuka Kinen witnessed a showdown between the strongest long-distance horse and the strongest mile horse in this middle-distance race. Nippoteio was at odds of 2.1, Tamamo Cross at 3.0, confirming that these two were the favorite. Following them was Fresh Voice at 7.4. The race has started. Nippoteio quickly took the second position. Tamamo Cross initially trailed behind but later advanced to the midfield. There were no significant changes in the formation afterward. Nippoteio took the lead while navigating the final corner. However, Tamamo Cross made a fierce comeback. Nippoteio was overtaken by Tamamo Cross just past the remaining 200 meters. It was a defeat with a margin of 2.5 lengths to Tamamo Cross. Despite the loss, the race between the two strongest horses was exciting. And thus, Nippoteio retired after this race. His overall record is 21 races with 8 victories, including 3 wins in Grade 1 races. After finishing 8th in the NHK Cup at the age of 3, he demonstrated remarkable consistency by securing a top 3 position in all 15 subsequent races. After his retirement, the mile racing scene will pass on the spotlight to a new generation. Yes, horses from the era that many are familiar with, such as Agri Cat and Soccer Boy, will go on to shine in the future. Soon, the Showa era will come to a close. After retiring, Nippoteio began his stud career. The most accomplished among his offspring is arguably Enter My Way, born in his debut breeding season. He won the Grade 2 Osaka Cup and the Grade 3 Hakata Kinen, achieving 2 victories in grade races. In addition to Enter My Way, he has also produced several grade race winning horses. However, the most famous among his offspring is likely Haru Urara. She endured 113 consecutive losses since her debut in local races, but her persistent efforts were featured in the media, turning her into a social phenomenon. She likely became one of the most popular racehorses. Nippoteio retired from stud duty after the 2000 breeding season. He spent his remaining years but passed away due to old age in 2016. He lived a remarkably long life, reaching the age of 33. That's all for this time. If you want to know more about Japanese horses, subscribe to this channel. Thank you.